Hello, everyone, and welcome to Top of the Box, where some friends have gathered around the table at the Game Emporium once again to discuss board games of a particular year. My name is Luke, that is Ross,
Yeah.
and we're talking about board games of a year again. We're doing our next one in the series. I have got a slight cold, so apologies if I have to disappear off and make some weird noises.
It's going to be all the cutting for you, basically, every time you cough or need to blow.
To be honest, it's just going to be, if you speak, I'll just edit around it, to be honest, because if it's you're speaking, I can just cut my audio out. It's fine.
Yeah.
So if you could just talk when I'm coughing, that'd be great.
I'll do my best.
Good man. So we're going to go through the games of 2018 today. The best 5 games that we think of that particular year. 2018 was an interesting year, I think. There's a lot of good games in 2018. Like, I've got 9 on my list, and admittedly,
I've got a lot
Yeah.
on my list as well.
honourable mentions is obscene. There is a lot of different games that have done particularly well. So yeah, let's dive straight into it. Let's go with our honourable mentions first of all.
Yep.
So the first 2 of my honourable mentions are games that I have played only once, so I couldn't really give them any higher ranking. They are Stuffed Fables and Brass Birmingham.
Yes. Okay, yes, nice, yeah.
I figured Brass Birmingham might come later on your list, but I've only played it once, so I don't know. So those are my 2. The other 2 are games that I've played a lot of, and for that reason they've sort of lost their shine a little bit. I've kind of cooled on them a little bit. Just One,
Yeah.
really good party game.
Yes.
My mum-
I have that on my honourables as well.
Nice. My mum demands I bring it every Christmas or family gathering that we have, which is quite fun.
Yeah.
And Everdell, just because the base game,
Also,
the base
also was on
game,
my honourable mention.
yeah, the base game I think it's a solid game. It's a really good game. It's good. It's cute. It has a lot of stuff. But as we found when we tried to play it with Laura's 10x10, it gets a little stale with just the base game. So I feel like I need to incorporate some of the expansions into it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It just refreshes it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to hear mine?
Yeah, please.
You've mentioned some of them already. So, yes, you mentioned Just One. You mentioned Everdell.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones I had on my Cluster,
Yeah, good game.
which was also a great shout. Welcome To was on there as well.
Yeah, good little Ron right. Flip 'em right.
Space Base as well was also on.
Oh yeah, I forgot
on
Space
some good
Base was that
games.
year.
So, and I also said I need to play in all caps. Nemesis also came out this year, which I have still not played yet.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up just for the hell of it CO2 Second Chance.
Yeah, well, unless
Just because
I'm
Lacerda.
trying to be. I'm not. Yeah, I'm trying not to just put a Lacerda on every single one of these lists, but because otherwise it would be really easy. It'd be really easy to fill a slot. So it doesn't appear on the list, and it's not in the honourable mentions.
But you haven't played it, so you can't put it.
Yeah, I cannot.
All right.
But yeah,
Yeah, so those are our honourable mentions. Let's have a look at number 5.
yeah. Do you want to go first? Or shall I go first?
You go first. I'm going to take some water.
I'll go.
I'll take some water on.
first. Oh, this is it. This is perfect. I can do my talking whilst you're thinking. Right. So in my number 5 slot, I've got Railroad Inc.
No, Railroad
so
Inc. is my number 5 as well.
Oh,
Hey,
excellent. Okay,
it's the
very
first
cool.
time we've actually had a
it is.
complete crossover.
Yep, it is.
Although I
So
suspect your one is going to be the blue version. Mine will be the red version. It makes absolutely
Mine
no
is the blue
difference.
version. There we go. So yeah, Railroad Inc. Roll and write, roll some dice, draw some roads or some trains down. Try to connect as many exits off the board as you can. Score lots of points. Score some points for filling in the middle slots. You play over 8 rounds, 7 rounds,
6.
something like that. 6. Oh, is it less?
I think it's 6
I
rounds.
thought it was
Just
7
6 rounds, yeah. Might be
Maybe
7.
okay.
It's
I don't
not
know.
a long
Anyway,
game, let's put it that way.
No, it's not a long game. I love roll and writes. Win. It's again one of those really easy to explain games. Really nice and quick to play. And it's interesting to see how everyone varies a little bit with the same dice rolls, right? So they got loads of sort of expansions. Other versions is probably a better way.
Well, there is expansions.
So
There's all sorts of like 4 dice mini expansions that you can get that just
that's
allow you
true as
to
well,
sort of
actually,
mix things in.
beyond just the
Beyond just like in the base game. So like for the blue version, you've got the river, I think is one of the things in there. Whereas in the red version, you've got lava and volcanoes. So you've got all sorts of different stuff that mixed in. Then you've got the yellow and green versions, which basically does make it sound like it's Pokemon games.
Yes,
But there is like a sci-fi expansion. There's all sorts of like mini, like I say, 4 dice expansions that you can just sort of throw in because you can.
Yeah, really good game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really good. I think it's solid on right. It's hung around for a while. It was also my number 5, as I said. So it's it's real good, and it's a game that I feel like we've played a lot digitally. I have got it. I have got it physically. I think you've only played it physically like once.
Yeah, I have. Maybe
twice.
Yes. Maybe twice. I think twice. Yeah, I think twice.
Because it's just so easy to play. The Railroad Inc. app was really good for a while. I know you got addicted to it in the early days of the pandemic.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good. So yeah, that's there you go. That's cut a lot of time out.
It has. Will be a quicker one. That's good. Nice.
Nice. All right, that's our number 5. Let's look at number 4.
It is.
My number 4 is a game that I think you'll probably be like, okay, kinda.
Sure.
It's Disney Villainous.
Yeah. Okay, kinda. No.
There you go. I like the Villainous system. It's a game where you are playing as one of the Disney villains, where you're just basically going to be moving around different locations, taking the actions there, playing out different villain cards against different heroes, and the fate action, sort of trying to screw over your opponents by drawing cards from their fate decks. So you've got all the different Disney movies. There's also a Marvel and a Star Wars version, which I don't particularly care for as much. But it's just a good game. I think it's a great gateway game if you're playing like to 2 people. I think any more than that, it can take a little bit long. But it's very much a case of if you've got someone who's interested in gaming, you've got someone who's interested in Disney, you can just go, here's a great theme that's going to draw you in, and it gives you an idea of like worker placement, action selection, card play. Fairly straightforward rules to do. It's just the nuances over the different characters, and then you can throw in whatever character you want to throw in there. You could have Hades against the Queen of Hearts, or against Prince John. There's all sorts of new expansions that come out. You've got Lotso in the Pixar universe is now in there. There's a lot of different things. Syndrome from The Incredibles, like all sorts of things.
Yes. I was going to say, I 100% agree. So it's not really my game, but if I'm wanting to introduce someone to board gaming, and I know they are, which is essentially why I got a copy in the first place.
Yeah.
And I know that they like Disney, then really easy pick. And again, though you said only plays, best played maybe like on the lower count, although it takes a little bit long. Actually, again, a really good opportunity when you've got family or whatever. You can play up to 6 players or 5 players.
You can play up to 6, yeah.
6. So it's 6 people, so you can accommodate for the whole family, and it's Disney, and it's a board game win, right? So it's pretty good.
Ticks a lot of boxes, which I like.
I can't tell you really why I don't really like it. I feel like there's some of the characters may be a little bit unbalanced.
So they have at least
kills it a little bit.
They have at least tried to rectify that. So some of the more recent characters they've developed and tweaked, and they have re-released like the 4 of the original characters in a new box, which I think was for the Disney 100 anniversary. I think it was only released in the States, but it might be coming over here as well. But it gives you like freshens up 4 of the characters, like Ursula, makes them a little bit more balanced, which is pretty good. So they've at least they're taking on some of that feedback that's a bit different. Like Tapestry is another classic example of the game that is a little bit unbalanced, and then designers are doing stuff with it and trying to take that feedback on, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you want to know my number 4?
Yeah, go on.
You could say no there, and I'd just be like, well, okay, then I guess.
It would defeat the purpose of the formats.
It would indeed. I know this one is definitely not going to be on your list. It wasn't on your honourables. 100% definitely is not going to be on your list.
Is it Root?
This game is. It is Root, yes. My number 4 is Root.
Yeah.
So I played it digitally, I think twice now, actually. I think once with you, once, I can't remember who else, with someone else. And I played it physically as well now. And it is, I can see why in a second what you're going to say, and I'll let you say it in a second, but I can 100% understand your criticisms of it, I guess, a little bit. But I think it's a really good game. I think it's just in fact, I will go into criticism a little bit because I think I agree with some of it. Mostly it's around that teaching element. So it's essentially a area control game, really, but you're all playing as different factions. Really cute woodland animals. I know you're not a fan of the art, I think, from memory, but I think a lot of people do quite enjoy the artwork as well. Cute woodland creatures. You're trying to control clearings within a forest. each faction, though, each woodland creature has its own ability or its own style of play, and sometimes its own victory conditions off the back of that as well. Which means that when you come to explain the game to people, you're kind of having to go, so this is the base game things. That was really easy. Now I need to go through each individual person on a 4-player game and say, hey, this is how yours one works. And then not only that, people then have to understand theirs, but they also have to understand what everyone else does, because if you don't understand what someone else's faction's doing,
you can't
kind
stop
of leave
them.
the door open for them just to win, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're doing to stop them. So, really good game, but I think does have its drawbacks in that aspect.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, you've hit my two criticisms of it are that asymmetry. Asymmetry is a good thing in games. I like asymmetry.
Yes.
I don't like
Talk about
asymmetry.
tapestry. We just mentioned it a second ago,
Exactly.
which is a great example of asymmetry, right?
Like, but I don't like asymmetry to the point where you have to learn everything to do it. Like slight tweaks to give you a little bit of balance. Like in Villainous, like the rules are basically the same, but each character has their own way of play.
Victory condition, essentially.
Yeah, and they have their own,
really
victory condition. But you don't need to understand. You can. It's very easy to explain. Like Prince John have 20 power at the start of his turn.
Yes.
That's incredibly easy to explain. Whereas with Root, you have to explain the entire concept of the game fully to try and.
I mean, just take the bird people from Root, for example.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the victory; it's just the whole way that you play. You're basically creating like you're programming a machine, and when your machine falls over, you have to reset everything, and you lose some victory points, basically.
Yeah.
And none of the other factions play like that. One of them you only have like one character, and you pop up now and there and do stuff.
Yeah.
But everyone else has like character. You only have like one figure to attack. Everyone else has like 20 figures that they're attacking with, meeples that they're attacking with. So yeah, it varies hugely.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had a couple of instances. I mean, we played it digitally, and I did try and go through the tutorials and try and get an understanding of it. And I had a couple of instances, where I got to the combat, and I was like, okay, I feel like I understand this. And we rolled the dice, and I was like, okay, I've got the higher number. How have I lost this?
Yeah,
I did not understand what was going on there. It just baffled me. So, and as you said, I'm not a fan of the artwork style. That's just me. I don't like it. Leader Games has a very particular art style, and it just doesn't do it for me.
I tell you what, I just a little bit en route. I tell you what, I'm quite keen to have a go at is they've got an RPG as well.
They do, yes.
I think would be really cute. And in fact, I think they've just started playtesting on the second version of that, like the Root RPG 0.2 or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
So literally as of like yesterday, I got an email about it. So maybe something to have a little dig at as well.
Yeah, maybe.
From RPG side of it, maybe.
Maybe. Good. Cool. All right. Well, that's our number 4s. Let's have a look at number 3.
My number 3 is going to be probably number 1 on your list, if I'm honest. So I could be wrong, but I think so. My number 3 is Architects of the West Kingdom.
It is my number 1. Yes.
Yeah. So in fact, I'm probably going to leave it to you to explain the game because you're probably going to do it in more detail. The only thing I want to throw in there is I think it's my favourite. I think of the West Kingdom series. Mm-hmm. It's the one I've definitely played the most.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just it's a good worker placement, and it's better than some of the other. Not in a. It's better than all these other games. But it's just better than the other games that we've mentioned. So when I was putting this list together, I was like, I could leave it off knowing that Luke's going to put on there, but I feel like I need to at least have it in this list because it's such a good game. So I think you take away on the how to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come back to it. I think for my number 1 slot because it is my number 1 game, and I feel like it deserves to be brought up at the end due to that. But it is a real good game. My number 3 is Dungeon Mayhem. It's a really nice little card game where you are just playing out as different D&D. Well, in the original base game, you are playing as one of 4 D&D classes. So it's the Barbarian, the Wizard,
Cleric?
the Paladin, and the Rogue.
Oh, it's a Paladin. Yeah.
And you are basically playing these different cards, and all you're trying to do is knock each other down to 0 health. It's a pretty straightforward game. But it's sort of the element and sort of the roleplay aspect of it is like, the Rogue uses daggers, and then uses more daggers, and then uses even more daggers, and then Divine Smite for the Paladin. It's a fun, silly little card game. And I think the Monster Madness expansion, I think that's what it's called, just gives you a whole bunch of like D&D monsters that you can just throw in as well to play as, and like the expansions all sort of muddled together. You can just have all sorts of things you can play as. Dr. Tentacular, who is a psychologist illithid, like Mind Flayer, which you've got a big red dragon. You've got a gelatinous cube. You've got an owlbear who's a circus performer. You've got all sorts of different wacky combinations that do different things. The artwork is pretty cool. The card names are pretty imaginative and are just good fun.
Yeah.
It's just a fun game, and sometimes that's what you want.
Yeah, it's
just
good.
a quick, fun game that you can just sort of go, yeah, I'm just going to play this for a little bit. I don't need to think about it too much. If I lose, and it's a game that I don't mind having a bit of player elimination in because it's quick.
Yes.
Like, very rarely are you going to be a case of, and I'm out of this game, and then you're waiting 2 hours to play again, you know?
Yeah.
So it's pretty quick in that way.
I think my first play of this game, and in fact, here's a little shout out to Sam, who I saw liked the tweet we put out. What is that called now? The X that we put out, whatever the hell it is, or whatever. Yeah, or whatever it was. Anyway, I saw he put something out basically around, or maybe it was on Instagram even. I can't remember. Anyway, we posted about the first of these videos. I think it was.
Yeah.
And he liked it, and that was quite ironic because the first time I played this game was his copy. I think we were really quite drunk. I think we went back to his house and we were playing a copy of this game, and. Yeah, it was really good. From memory, because I was probably a little bit tipsy at the time, I quite like there's a little bit of like the politics around it as well, because obviously you see someone slightly ahead, so then you start targeting them a little bit, so it like kind of balances it out a little bit, right? So there's a little bit of like this semi-cooperativeness to it, where you're like, well, Luke's got loads of health, we should just be focusing him, and then everyone piles on, but then as you start to drop down, that focus shifts to someone else. It's not like, unless everyone has a particular hatred for one individual or one person or whatever,
which does happen,
which sometimes might happen, then it's quite good at self-balancing. You don't have to worry about that player elimination element, I guess, is where I was going with that, which is good.
It's good. It's good fun. And as I say, it's just a silly little card game. It doesn't have to be taken too seriously. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that's our number threes with a foreshadowing of my number one, which is actually there, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So let's go and look at our number twos before we get into that excitement.
Yep. Just really quickly, because I know it's your turn, but I think your number two is going to be my number one, but we'll see.
Ooh. My number two is the Quacks of Quedlinburg,
which is my number one.
Nice. We have had a lot of crossovers in this list, which actually makes a lot of sense. Quacks of Quedlinburg, good fun. It's your number one, so I'll let you sort of take it away a little bit. So we'll do what I did with Architects, and we'll just come back to it a little bit. But I love Quacks. Quacks is just great.
Yeah. You got any more on that? You just love Quacks.
Done. I'm going to talk about it when you. I will talk about it when you talk about it at number one, because it's just so good.
Okay, well, let's talk about my number two then, because you did foreshadow this in your honourable, was it in your honourable mentions? Is Brass Birmingham, which is obviously in my number two slot. So I kickstarted both of them. In fact, you can see Lancashire here somewhere. Like both of them. Birmingham, I think, is the better of the two, based on the fact that we've played through both of them now.
It's number one on BGG.
Just really really tidy game. That's the way to describe it.
Yeah.
So it's quite a complex game, but they keep it quite tight. So basically, it plays over two eras. I think that's the right language for it. One's in the canal, then eventually railroads. You're essentially moving in industrial area, you're moving products around. The way to differentiate them is Birmingham involves beer.
And the Black Country, pretty much.
And the Black Country, to be fair, yes, to be fair. You're just trying to basically score points by putting... it's kind of a little bit controlling of the map. So you're laying down your tiles, you're controlling certain areas, you're making sure that your network's nicely linked up, so you have availability of coal and iron when you need it. Sometimes you might need to use iron from another player, but that means then that you're freeing up their industry, which then scores them victory points, so you're having a bit of a trade-off and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, really tight game. You're basically playing cards to do actions, and depending on the card that you play, depends on which town or city you can activate, essentially, to let you do those things. That's the way to describe it, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's a really
I mean, yeah, it's everyone's favorite game apparently as well. So
apparently it's a real good crunchy game, which is good fun. I need to play it again. I think is probably. I mean, it was on my honorable mentions because I only played it once. I played Brass Lancashire. We played that years ago. Was when we first played that. So yeah, a little bit more exploration in that I think is probably needed. Just because we played that. I think we played it in the pub when there were two games of it happening simultaneously.
Yes,
And I
which
think
is funny.
both games had the same realization of things that were going wrong.
Yes. We forgot. I think we both forgotten the same rule, and then both realised within
about 10 minutes of each other.
I think. Well, I feel like one table shouted over, "Oh, don't forget this rule," and the other table literally responded,
"We've already worked that one out.
We just figured that one out as well."
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't remember what rule it was.
Bit funny.
Oh well. But yeah,
we'll forget next time we play as well. I'm sure.
Probably, but it's good. It's a good little route builder. I think there's a lot of. I've heard a lot of good things about Nucleum, which uses a lot of has a lot of similarities. So I'd be interested to give that a go at some point, possibly to come up on a 2023.
Yeah,
would like to try list. So yeah, that's our number twos, sort of. So let's go into our heavily hinted number ones.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll jump off first. Number one. So we've already mentioned Cracks of Cronenberg.
Yes.
Really good game, push your luck game. It was a bit of a toss up between Brass and Quacks, but I played more of Quacks.
Yes.
And I think because Quacks is a lighter game, and it's probably. I'm just double checking my brain. I think it's my favourite push your luck game. I think it is. I think it's my favourite.
Yeah, you don't.
I'm trying to think what else would beat it out.
You don't really have a lot of push your luck games in there. Like Can't Stop is probably the other one that I think of you a lot, but it's quite basic.
What's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. The one with the clovers in it.
Oh, So Clover. No, not So Clover. Lucky Numbers.
Lucky Numbers.
Yes.
Lucky Numbers. I did remember it eventually. Is the only one. Is the other one. Anyway, Quack. So basically, you are making potions essentially, really, or you're throwing ingredients into a pot. What you're doing is you start off with a core group. You're drawing out your tokens from your bag. You're playing them along, and you're hoping that everything doesn't explode in your face, essentially.
Yeah.
Because depending on what tokens you draw, depends on if you draw. Is it 3? I think it's 3 of a certain color. Then eventually your potion explodes.
Not quite. If you draw 7, a total.
A total of 7 power overall.
More than 7 of white cherry bombs. It will cause it to explode.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what you're doing then is at the end you also going to be essentially drafting more ingredients into your bag. So then hopefully later on you can not be exploding as often, but also find other ways of scoring points depending on what you're drawing from the bag. I actually think a really good gateway game as well for people, entry game for people
it is
as well, because it's a quite easy theme to grasp, quite an easy game to grasp, and that push your luck thing means that if you can get lucky essentially. So if you're new to board games, you're terrible at strategy, it doesn't matter because you could just keep drawing and just be pushing your luck and be getting away with it basically. So but yeah, go on, you throw in your thoughts on it.
What I like about it is that it has the catch-up mechanism of the rat tails, that if you are really starting to lag behind the first player, everyone who isn't the first player gets a little bump on the track, so they get a little heads up. And also, the game doesn't punish you too much for busting.
Yes.
So what it effectively does is it gives you a choice of either taking the victory points or taking the money that you can use to buy new ingredients, which early on in the game, it kind of doesn't matter if you just go, I'm just going to take the money and buy better stuff. So you're not getting too disadvantaged from being held back for exploding, which is nice. You've also got 2 really good expansions that are thrown in there, the Alchemist and the Herb Witches, that give you some special abilities, which we need to play more of, actually. So I look over at my big box, my mega box sat over.
And increases the player count?
Up to 5 with the the Herb Witches. But it's a solid game. It's just one of those that it's like Dungeon Mayhem. It's just fun.
Yes.
It doesn't require too much heavy thinking. You can have some strategies going into it. You've got a ton of replayability because you've got each of the different ingredients has different things it can do. Yes. You can just sort of shuffle the sets in and you just go, right, we're just going to play with this, and they're going to just do different things. So they'll combine in different ways, which is quite a lot of fun, and it's just interesting to play as. Yeah. Love Quacks. Real good game.
Yes.
So yeah, my number one is Architects of the West Kingdom. I think this was my first introduction to Garfield Games as a publisher.
Yeah.
I think I saw it on Tabletopia when we were first getting into streaming, and just like, oh, I'd like to give this a go. This looks kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a worker placement game where you start off with 20 workers, and you're not going to gain any more than that. But what you have is open action selection spots. So you're going to be trying to, effectively, you're in 10th century France. I think it's around that.
I'm looking now. It's circa 850 AD is what it says on there. So.
9th century then. So you are in 9th century France, where you are building out this town. You're going to be playing workers to gather resources, to build as part of the cathedral, to build different buildings for yourself, so you can build an engine, recruit workers, etc., etc. There's all sorts of fun stuff that you're doing with this game as you're playing it out. But the openness of the action selection spots, with a few exceptions, means that you can, if you put one worker in, you're going to get one of the resource. If you put two workers in, you'll get two of that resource, and so on and so forth. And there's no limit to how many workers you can put in there. Except there might be, because your opponents will look at that and go, this might be a problem. So they might put a worker down in the town hall, pay some silver to the tax stand, and capture your workers, and then put them into the sort of like a citizen's arrest holding pen. And then they'll arrest them again and throw them in jail for money, because that's the thing. So you can sort of build a little bit of an engine, and then you can go, this is a problem. I need to deal with this cascading effect and start to arrest those, which is really cool. I really like Architects. It was my number one game of all time for a good chunk of time, and then I got deeper into Paladins of the West Kingdom, and I was like, ooh, this might just tip over. But Architects has got a couple of really good expansions that just throw in some extra bits and pieces. I think it has a really smooth solo mode, which is brutal as all hell, because it will just turn around and just go, you're building up there, I see. I'm just going to capture all of your workers. It's like, well, that's a... it is a thing. But it also works really well as a really aggressive third player in a two-player game, because I think you lose some of that. You lose some of that direct conflict if you play it at two. If you play it at 3, 4, or 5, you have, or 6 even with one of the expansions. You get more direct conflict and like competing for buildings and capturing workers and stuff. You kind of get a little bit more cutthroaty in that aspect, because you can kind of afford to, rather than just focusing on yourself. Whereas with the really aggressive AI player, it does cause some issues for you. So it's cool. But it's just a great game.
Yeah, it's really, and in fact, it's really good. You made a really good call out, because I think this is what does set it apart a little bit from some other worker placements. Because also, usually in a worker placement, it's about locking the actions that you want before your opponents can, to make sure, because obviously usually it's locked to like one individual, for example. So it's a really nice take on that kind of stockpiling of the same space. But you're right, you've got to get the right balance where you don't stick out too much, because then someone's going to cash in basically on the fact that you've really overcommitted. I think I've played early on, I think I was playing, maybe it was 1, maybe 2 games where I hadn't really been paying enough attention, and then you can get caught in a really nasty spot where all of your workers are locked out, and then you can only on your action, literally your only action is to take one worker back. And then the next round, you're then having to place it to then try free your workers back to you and stuff. And also, if you don't have the cash to do that, so you have to really be really conscious of that as you're playing, that you are just trying to manage that workload. And in fact, the funny thing about it as well is you can capture your own workers. You can,
you can just
on your own workers to then bring them back to you available for you to use. So that's quite nice.
I like it as thematically. It's just a case of going, hey guys, the fuzz are coming, run. Kind of thing, which is quite nice.
Really good game. Really
it is. And I like the virtue track as well on the left hand side of the board, where you can go up that track for bonus points, but you can also drop down that to really go into the black market, which is kind of fun.
I'm yet to see someone pull off a very successful unvirtuous virtuous or unvirtuous? I think unvirtuous strategy. I think it's almost like it's a good temptation, and I think you can dip into it a little bit, but I've not yet seen anyone pull off a really good strategy where they're like, I'm just going to be like the terrible person in this town and succeed off it. I've not seen that.
No, I haven't
Really
yet either. I think there's too much. There's not none of the buildings really reward that. There might be something that's in one of the expansions that is like the further down the virtue track because it's negative points if you're really unvirtuous, and it also slows the game down because you can't build at the cathedral and all sorts of stuff. They don't trust you.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of there's some interesting choices you can make, like robbing from the tax stand.
Yeah.
You know, get all the money that's been paid there over the course of the game, which is a really interesting balance. But yeah, I love it. I think it's a really good game.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
So those are our top games of 2018. What do you think at home? Let us know in the comments what you think are some great games from 2018. Whatever you think might be. Do you disagree with any of our choices? Do you prefer or honourable mentions? Whatever it is.
Was it something we've missed completely? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't played every game in 2018, but
I reckon for most people, Nemesis would be up in there. I think more.
I'm having a quick look. We've got like Obsession, Teotihuacan.
Yeah.
Too Many Bones, Undertow specifically. Camel Up, Chronicles of Crime, Western Legends.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane actually how many like solid games there were in 2018. I think that's the thing that. I was looking through this, being like, Jesus, there's just so much choice.
There's a lot.
There's
a lot of stuff. But we also know that you have a lot of choice when it comes to your board game content creators. We thank you for looking at ours.
Thank you.
Liking, subscribing, letting people know about us so that we can do more stuff like this. Check out our D&D campaign. Check out some more of our top of the box stuff. Until next time, we'll be back with 2019 games soon. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, mate.